the Source Awards that one year. It was 1 second away. And the person who stopped it was Snoop. It was 1 second away from the match going off.
What's up? This is Vanessa Satin, editor-in-chief of XXL, and a new episode of Inside Track Podcasts. Today, our special guest is Steve Stoute, who is the founder and CEO of UnitedMasters. And we're here along also with Courtney Lowry, our host and my dear friend. And I'm going to hand the reins over to Courtney right now.
First and foremost, thank you for joining us, Steve.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. So, we hear now artists talk about their independence and going independent, but you starting UnitedMasters in 2017, obviously you saw a need and a fit for this long before it became a thing today. Yeah. What was that sparked that?
What created the opportunity for me was when Jimmy Iovine and Jay-Z left the music business. To me, those were the two last entrepreneurs that were active in the music business. And they both had went to build streaming sites, Tidal, and ultimately Beats Music, which became Apple Music. So the fact that they had known that streaming was about to take off, to me, led to the belief that physical distribution was gone. And with the absence of physical distribution really being gone, there was no need for a record company. The idea that a record company could do something that you couldn't do, that was really the last thing they had. Because if streaming took off, then it would lead to the elimination or need and reliance on radio. YouTube had already taken care of video. Mm-hmm. And physical distribution was the last barrier that was there. So I felt like building the digital pipes in order to connect the artists directly to those streaming platforms that they were building would be the right idea. So it's just really following the logical path of where the industry was going. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, obviously, there are distribution platforms, whether it's a DistroKid or whether it's a TuneCore. What are some of the things that makes UnitedMasters stand out above all the rest?
Well, very early on, I knew that distribution, even when I had the idea, was going to become a commodity. Once you build a technology to distribute music, then it's just going to be a matter of price. What do you charge the artist? What do you charge the customer? Mm-hmm. So how could you provide services above and beyond distribution in order to separate yourself from the others so that you could keep providing value? Mm-hmm. We owned translation already. I already started translation. I had it for 15 to 14 years at the time.
And what was translation exactly at that point?
Translation was a creative services company, mm-hmm. right? Making some of the greatest campaigns that was and is relevant to the youth market today. And I felt like if I can combine the marketing with or brand marketing with the artist distribution, I would have something that was uniquely special. When I came up in the music business, very early on, Def Jam Records had the greatest art department ever. In fact, the art department at Def Jam should have been an advertising agency. They were that good. You look at a lot of those album covers, you look at some of that graphic design, mm-hmm. It's insane, beautiful, it's special and unique. And I always felt like if you have a marketing services company that's connected to culture, and then you have the music distribution company that obviously is in the industry of creating culture and being part of it, of contemporary culture, that was a special combination. I had learned that from watching Def Jam in the late 80s, early 90s with that art department and and obviously that roster of artists, the talent that they were releasing.
So you have the art that is the Def Jam covers and everything. You have more of an emphasis on photographers and photo than there is. Do you see that now being less than ever, and we've lost that side of things at all in the element of your album cover being art, your liner notes being art, the kind of creativity that went to an overall package? Does it still exist?
Well, I was just saying the artwork as an example. The creative expression in general, the jackets, the videos, everything.
Right.
Just the creative expression of the artist was profound, cutting edge, something that should have been advertising, as far as I'm concerned, at a mainstream level. It would have definitely connected much better than the stuff that was coming out back then in advertising. I feel like it's changed.
It branched it,
I feel like it's changed, brand advertising. I feel like it's changed. It's easy to sit back and say, as you get older, that things aren't what they used to be. It's a very easy, that's gravity will make you say something like that. There's different forms of expression that are appeals to a generation that sees the world differently. And where you may not see the art, or I may not even see the art in some of it I do see the art in. I remember specifically, gravity was pulling me in this place. Well, this is, whatever. And then I seen a Lil Yachty cover for something, and I was like, this is incredible. It was like a high school photo, and it was something he did, and I was like, this reminds me, Pharrell would have done this with Nerd, with NERD. And I remember us thinking, I found something I could connect it to that made sense to me. And then I started looking at the next generation of art through a different lens.
Right.
Not like it had to appeal to me, but what it must look like to a 16, 17-year-old.
Right. Because it's not made for you.
It's not made for me.
Right, yeah.
It's not made for me. This thing happened to me. I was in the gym working out. So in the gym I was in, the speakers were always broken. So I brought a portable speaker, and I'm like, look, I don't care who uses it, but when I come, there's two things. Don't take the plug out and use it for your phone, because you can just plug it into an Android phone. Don't do that. And the second thing is, don't. And when I come, I'm going to use it. So I come to the gym, and there's these. I'm doing I'm hitting an extra long warm up before I start, so I don't pull a hammy or some shit. And these young kids, 17 years old, they're doing pull-ups. And they're playing music on the speaker, and they're playing it off of YouTube, because you know how that goes. They don't, whatever, right? They don't have the streaming service. They're using YouTube, and they're playing it. And I hear a song, and I'm like, this is fucking trash. They're working out to it. And I'm like, while they're doing it, I'm like, you know what? It's easy for me to say it's trash, but I remember when I was that age, I specifically was listening to the J, the I, the M, the Y, the J, the I, the M is Jimmy. I'm like, that's also kind of trash.
Just some spelling, yeah.
Like when you think about it now, that, Karis has a lot of records that age well. That's not necessarily one of them. So I'm like, why am I judging that? Because I know somebody else thought that was trash when I was listening to that song. And then the next song that came on, literally right after that dawned on me, started. I remember it started like that, and then the beat dropped. And I'm like, what's that? And that was Shot a Flow by NLE Choppa. And I heard the record, and I had somebody in the office track it, and we found out that he had just put it up 4 days earlier, and it was independent, and then we had signed it, and that became our first big song at UnitedMasters. But that literally happened within a 3-minute period. I thought that what they were doing was nonsense.
And you had to check yourself.
Check myself, and then the next song I played was the song that helped start moving our company forward in a very important way. Like, it happened in that quick series.
Did you ask those kids sitting there in the gym what they liked about it? Did you have any conversation,
about
or you
what?
didn't about the two songs, about the first one about Choppa? Any conversation?
The NLE Choppa song, I didn't need them to tell me. As soon as it started, the way it started, and literally within the first 4 bars, I'm like, I like that. It was immediately. It didn't take time.
Right.
For me to. I said, "What is that?" And he's like, "NLE Choppa." I said, "What?" And he was like, "Choppa." I'm like, "I got it."
I know what a chopper is.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned some pretty big names, NLE Choppa, and then also when we go down the roster for UnitedMasters, we also hear names like Earth Gang, Brent Fayez, and to the average person, they wouldn't necessarily think that is an independent artist. So could you shed some light on what exactly independent is? Because a lot of times I think when people think independent, they think of an artist that they may not have heard of, but those are really big names. Well, global names that you just mentioned.
Independent at some point used to mean that. Independent were artists that, were primarily associated with not being able to get record deals. So because you couldn't get a record deal, you had to go independent because you were not ready for a record deal yet.
Right.
So you were aspiring for a record deal, you couldn't get one, so you had to go independent. These artists want to go independent.
Yes.
They have no desire to do anything else. Earth Gang, and shout out to Barry, they were like, look, we worked with a record company. It didn't work. We want to be creative. We have our own different timelines. We have things that we want to do, and we can't work within the construct of a record company.
Right.
We want creative freedom, like real creative freedom. We have bigger plans than just putting out music.
Right.
And we need a partner that can work with us and adjust around that. That's freedom. That's independence.
Right.
Brent was always independent and keen sense of understanding on what that means and the values of that. And out of all the, other parties he could have gone with, he chose us.
Why is that?
I think he chose us because we're the only distributor that offer the services that we have the funding to do the things that he wants to get done. We have a big vision. I have a big vision. So does he.
And it was a good match.
I guess so. I also think that we're the best in the industry that does it. That's probably why he chose us. I think we're better than everybody else at this.
Where do you think the shift was where artists wanted to, from not independent to wanting to be independent? Where do you
During
think that
COVID.
shift began? Really,
COVID,
that recent?
Well, because they didn't have, you couldn't go to a record company. How are you going to get paid? Putting out music, going to a record company, working with the timelines and. For a record company which works on a very specific timeline and fourth quarter and all of the things that in the structure
rigid, yeah,
that they run their business through, COVID threw all that upside down, and artists wanted to put out music and make money and do their thing. We're paying every 30 days. You can put out music when you feel like it. People at home consuming music. We're rolling. Our business expanded tremendously during COVID. You can't go to your record company. You can't get somebody to listen to your music. They're not approving the album. You can't shoot the video. It's like so many other things, if you're with a record company, that created roadblocks during COVID. That was one of the things that I seen that was the acceleration of our business. But I think over time, just like artists, very few artists I've ever heard say anything great about their record company. And I'm not even shitting on the record company. It's just like, if you ask most artists, like, I don't want to be here. I'd rather be independent. I think they understand the freedom, and they probably found out, like, there's nothing that they're doing that I can't do outside they gave me some money. And, like, there's value in that. But the value isn't worth what you give up. And I think that's come to realization.
So what about also the flexibility of now I can sit in my bedroom or I can go to someone's house, I can have a studio within there and I can design my own album cover and I can make it myself and I can have my friend shoot my music video.
Yeah.
And all of the technology that enabled people to do things that you thought you needed those labels for.
Yeah.
How much do you think that gives artists a sense of control, and is that control good, or is there something that sometimes says, hey, just because you did it doesn't means you did it great. It could be better.
Well, I always thought, whether it's today's current times or times in the past, that artists understood their audience better than anybody else, especially after they got off the road. Like, once an artist went on the road and they got a chance to see the fans, like, record company executives could have a lot of ideas of grandeur in their head of what it could be. But once an artist touched the people, they understood the kind of songs they need to make, who their fan base was, the kind of visuals that they need to be to represent themselves, and that remains true today. And they touch their fans much faster, obviously,
Right.
with social media. So, an artist being able to have the tools in front of them to create, specifically for their fan base, I'm with all of that. I support that. There are going to be mistakes, but there's mistakes. Record companies have picked the wrong singles many times. It's like, they're not more right. They take more credit, but they're not more right.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's how close you are to the audience and watching them and seeing everything. And do you think that young artists, do you think that independent artists, I guess artists in general, are they realistic when they come off the road and saying, oh, I stumbled there, oh, I could have done, or I connected here? Do you think it's that they learn as much as they could from it? Or sometimes people, they drink their own Kool-Aid. It's hard to say, I didn't do everything right, or I could have done that better in this market, or I could have done this better with the audience, or I could have stayed around and done the meet and greet, or whatever it is there. Do you find them to be honest with where their faults are?
Well, look, yeah, I do believe that artists, really dedicated creative artists, are going to be way more right than wrong. There are a lot of people who make music that are not artists, right? So let's not include that for a second. Let's talk about artists. Artists who take their craft seriously are going to pay attention to what part of a song worked in a live performance, what outfit got the most, blah, 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 what visuals connected the strongest. They're gonna do that. And even if they're wrong at times, they're gonna be more right. And my bet is on them. Mm-hmm. People who are making songs may have a different point of view on it. They're not dedicated to the process. They're just trying to get an outcome. They're not really paying attention to the nuances that lead to that outcome. So I'm not talking about them specifically, but artists, I believe, clearly will use the experiences of live performances and feedback from their fans in order to improve and grow their craft and audience.
And the ones that are not really artists but are succeeding, who are those people? Lucky?
No.
How would you describe them?
As people who've done that's the history of the music business. You want to go back in time and let me tell you how many artists made songs that were one or two songs and you never heard from them again, or they couldn't connect beyond that. That's the music business. Nothing's changed. There's more of it because there's more volume in general. But it's not changed. It's not a new breakthrough like, oh my God, there's the artists are fleeting fast. I could tell you in the 80s, disco, song, what are you talking about? It's like, that's normal. Mm-hmm.
It made me think of something. I'm jumping the gun because I know Courtney has a few other questions, but as a person who's been in the industry for a long time, dealing with a lot of different type of artists, but many lyricists, there's always the conversation of how much does lyricism play a role in hip hop today.
Yeah.
With freshmen, we see struggles there of the artists not being as lyrical as they used to be, and when they are, the lyricism not as appreciated as much as it used to be. So what do you think the state is of, and to throw in, we just watched Kendrick and Drake get into a beef where lyricism was a big part of it.
Yeah.
What do you think the state of lyricism is in hip hop, the value of it, the importance
I
now compared to
I
when?
I always thought the value. I don't think the value ever diminished, to be honest with you. I think the goalposts moved, but I don't think that. I think it's always remained valuable. You know, we could sit here and be like, "Hey, it was valuable. It was always valuable." Nas Illmatic didn't go gold for like 4 years. It took 4 years to sell 500,000 copies.
Good point, right.
And now everybody's saying it's the best album of all time.
Yeah.
So why wasn't it purchased so much then?
Yeah.
Since it was written so well. Reasonable Doubt.
Took years, yeah.
Took years. So like, you know, my dad says it all the time. We're all the wiser after the event. Like, you wasn't buying it like crazy back then. Like, what are you talking about?
But it's a great point. I haven't heard anybody explain it that way with those albums.
Yeah.
Is look how long it took for those lyrical giant albums to get the value that it
They
has.
weren't appreciated.
Right.
Yeah.
But people was buying Young MC. They were buying other things. So like, why are we talking about it? It's so unfair.
Yeah.
It's so unfair. It really is unfair that we just like have selective memory on back in our day. Rappers, rappers was rapping. They didn't care about G-Rap. They didn't play his music on the radio. He
Right.
could rap his ass off. No one cared. In fact, part of it was trying to avoid that because you didn't want to be just known as local.
Boxed in, yeah.
That was local. So the art form had to expand. You had to expand. You had to become melodic or have hooks and find beats that were more appealing. You still had to show you could rap. You never wanted to lose the license to say you know I can get busy at any time. But certainly that wasn't working. The audience wasn't buying that. Like the success was something going another route. Now all of a sudden we want to make it seem like people don't appreciate lyrics. Before we start talking about that and throwing that around so freely, let's be honest.
What'd you think of Kendrick vs. Drake?
I think that it was lyrics played a very big, important part of it, and that's the best part of the whole thing. That the words and the wordplay got acknowledged. They helped the entire industry. They helped the entire industry, and that, of course, that's going to get lost in all of it. Like, you know, who won and this, that, and the third. But they helped the entire music industry. The rap music industry should be thanking them for what they did to get people to pay attention that the art form is alive and strong. They should be they should be very fortunate about that. I think about things like that all the time, that we really don't understand a lot of people who have podcasts or radio shows or whatever, you speak on these mics, and you start criticizing this rapper or criticizing this or rap beef, this guy's gonna lose and this guy's gonna win. And what you don't realize is that the only reason why you have a career is because you could talk about them.
100%, yeah.
The only reason why you exist is because you could talk about them. Be careful. Be careful about their existence because their existence puts food on your plate. You don't have to like that. You could have a problem with that, but that's the truth. Nobody would not want to hear anything you have to fucking say if you do not have proximity to these artists that you criticize.
100%. So speaking about the industry and the game needs to really thank them for this this opportunity. UnitedMasters also gives a lot of opportunity, especially to aspiring artists, creatives, and you guys just launched a Debut Plus app.
Yeah.
So can we talk about the opportunities that allows and affords artists, creatives, and those coming up?
So, you know, we launched Debut Plus, which is a tier. We have Select, a subscription tier, and we just launched Debut Plus, which is more affordable.
Okay. How much is it?
$19.99,
Okay.
$20. We want to have a lot more artists getting an opportunity and getting the ability to get their music out there, to be able to put their music in brand campaigns. We have great programs. In fact, when we launched Debut Plus, we're doing a sort of a big, not big, but it's sizable, where we're gonna, somebody's gonna get $250,000 worth of value.
That's big.
Yeah, it's big. $250,000.
We ain't talking about $2,500. We talking about
$250,000. Yeah, for and get be a partner and get $250,000 worth of value in recording and marketing and getting your music out there and being able to turn this into a career. That's what we're trying to do that's what we've been trying to do, whether it was, NLE Choppa, or, we have this Latin act, Floyd Menor, he's streaming like crazy. BigXthaPlug, Anicia Now. These are artists, they found UnitedMasters to be a launching pad for them to start to build their career. This is very important for me to know that we built something that's helping these young artists launch their careers on our platform. And, Earth Gang, like I said, had another deal somewhere else, and Brett had somewhere else. But when you talk about artists that, uploaded their music to our platform, and we started working with them, and then all of a sudden it started moving up the charts, and we started putting things together. Toby Niwe, put music out with us for 7 years. This guy's on tour with Nas now, and in TV commercials, and
his movement has been fascinating to watch.
But these things, this is all independent who started with us. Having that platform be a launching pad for your career, and for me to say, I remember when this thing started, that shit really matters to me, and I hope that, different than other distributors, they see themselves moving a file from here to here. Like, put your file here, and then we'll put it on Apple and Spotify here. It's a file transfer. That's like a Dropbox or whatever. That's a utility. That's not what we do. We care. We build an artist services team that care. People who've been in the industry that care about the craft and care about artist development and care about marketing and care about good music and all that stuff. We're not just a company with engineers. We're a company filled with storytellers and creators and engineers, and they work together as one. And that's the difference between us and everybody else. We actually want the artists to be able to launch their career, and we are care and concerned about that and have pride in it. Most of these other places just want to move the file and keep it moving.
You mentioned record labels before and major labels. There have been a lot of changes this year, a lot of changes where you've seen people at the label for many, many years no longer have their jobs. You've seen, labels fold together. You've seen Def Jam kind of change. What are your thoughts on, the major shifts that happened this year?
It's going to get really bad. This is not even nothing.
Yeah.
This is going to be really bad.
Because
you're going to see people who are making big salaries not even be able to get jobs.
Why? What are we missing? What got you watch the music industry, there's music everywhere. For the basic person, what happened?
Yeah, what happened was the business model was built on taking advantage of artists.
It's that simple. That's exactly how you explain it.
And now you can't do that anymore. When you build a business model on, I'm gonna give you some money up front, and you're gonna give me your rights in perpetuity.
Right.
Okay? And I'm gonna pay you a royalty. What you owned 100% of, I just bought, and I'm going to pay you a percentage of yourself. I own you forever.
Right.
That business model is usury and doesn't work.
Where was the breaking point?
as soon as music went digital.
Digital.
Then it was
All the
like
cracks.
Because even if you didn't like the model, how am I going to put all of these CDs in 20,000 points of distribution? How am I going to get my video on MTV? If you came to MTV as an independent, they'll look at you like you out of your mind. You can't even get a meeting. How you going to get on the radio? The record companies own radio. They can act like that radio. You think radio is a democracy? Radio is not a democracy. Radio is owned by the record companies. MTV was owned by the record companies. They don't own YouTube. They don't own TikTok. They don't own Instagram. And they don't own independent distributors. And that's what changed. So now you have all these people, some people who are trash, making big-ass salaries in big-ass offices on the back of an artist who don't own their shit because the business model did that. And now you can't do that no more. And the record companies are getting beat on the front line. They're not signing the next, they're signing some of the new acts, but the majority of the new acts are finding success being independent. And even if the record companies do sign them, now they're not being able to do what they were doing to them. So now you look at the artists, the biggest artists with the biggest deals with the record companies don't make no money on them. They're not making money on Drake. They're not making money on The Weeknd. They're not making money on Taylor Swift. They're just using those names to advertise that they're still in business to get you to sign some bad deal.
Interesting.
They're not making any money on them.
Interesting.
So with that being said, and they can't control the independents, do you see back when you had the Bad Boys, when you had the Murder Incs., do you see independents starting to rise and crews starting to rise even more through all of this?
You haven't seen crews in a while, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say not yet. Relevant production companies like TDE or QC.
Correct.
Yes. We're still so early in this part of it, though. We're not there yet. It's still. If this conversation 3 years from now is going to
drastically,
you're
drastically
now seeing all of these layoffs come. What do you think happens with all these layoffs?
That's what I keep asking.
Less money invested in new artists, less signings for new artists, less talent at record companies. Like, that's one side of it. And then what do you see on the other side of it? What do you think the best people in the record company that got let go, where do you think they're going next? To the independents.
Right, their own businesses.
So what do you think is going to happen after that? You're going to start seeing talent infuse in that. Better artist development, better creativity, more collaboration. You're going to start seeing a brand new expression coming out of independent. That's what it is. I mean, when you're going through a metamorphosis, sometimes you act surprised, and it's obvious what's about to happen. You know what's going to happen. I mean, it's not even like there's nothing else. Record companies can't keep doing what they were doing, so they're changing. Independents are rising. There are going to be a lot of artists coming through independent. Somebody is going to win Album of the Year that's an independent.
Right.
You're going to see all of these things happen. And then what's going to end up happening is a kid who's 11 years old that could sing, that could play the guitar, and their entire aspiration is going to be independent. They're not, 20 years ago, I want to be on Def Jam. I want to be on Bad Boy. I want to be on Death Row. I want to be on Interscope. That's not going to be in that person's vernacular. And once that's removed, it takes years for that to be removed. Once that is removed, and the next great act says, I want to be independent, that's all you need. That's what happens.
So devil's advocate, and I don't know if this makes total sense, but it makes me think of it while we're sitting here. One, a lot of people say things are cyclical. Two, it makes me think of everybody got tired of cable owning everything and out popped streaming services. Is there a comparison to, maybe it's not there, cable kind of being the label and streaming service come out and being kind of the indies? And now you're seeing all this stuff of people don't want to pay the streaming services and go back to the cable. Is there a cyclical side of it that you ever see happening, or the change will be so extreme within the independents there is no going back?
To your point on cyclical, the music business started with independent labels. If you just go to the 50s and 60s and look at they were independent labels. It was all independent. And then conglomerates started. So the first thing that has to happen is it has to be a major independent. And if somebody comes in and turn that major independent into a big-ass company that needs to make certain things happen in order to make their numbers. And then you start to look more and more like a label again. Right? So that's just the way businesses work. Startups run lean. Money comes in. Professional management comes in. Salaries go up. Company gets big. What used to be like, hey, all of us talking to each other like this turns into, I haven't even seen this person in 4 months. Yeah. I haven't spoken to them live in a year. The company got so big. That's just the way businesses happen. Like, the beauty of a small business, you take for granted, and then you realize those are things that can't exist anymore when the business gets really big. I think the business models of record companies will never be again, where somebody says, oh, you're talented, here's $500,000, give me your name and likeness forever.
And we're doing the next 5 albums with
Yeah. It's 5, 8.
8.
Okay? 8 at 15%, if you're lucky. Those days are over with. But entities that hold a lot of artists and get really big, I think that will happen again. I mean,
because that comes with success.
That's the aspiration of growth and success.
Right. Right. So what do you like about a new artist? What comes into your office? What comes into your circle? And then you say this person has it.
He just brightened up. Did you see that?
Yeah, he did. He smiled for the first time in this interview.
What I like about new artists is the fresh perspective on you. I learned so much from looking at a 16-year-old tell me, who's really focused and paying attention, this is what's gonna happen, this is what's gonna happen, this is what's gonna happen. Because that's not my world anymore. And when a new artist comes to the table with a song and a fresh perspective that they wrote, I feel like I'm learning and I get a chance to live vicariously through that person. And that's what got me to smile, that's what gets me excited. Even if it's not a hit, the fact that you can learn and hear a fresh perspective on something, or fresh visuals, that I really like that. That's the part about it that I personally am excited about with new artists. You know, new artists that are successful, that's all great, but new artists that have a point of view in the world that's different.
And can turn you on to something.
That's dope. Yeah.
Who did that? Besides just the names on your roster that we went through, anybody that you've sat with in particular or over the years, not most recently, has done that for you?
Russ, for sure. Definitely. La Russell out in Oakland.
I've heard his name, I can't tell you how many times in the past week, yeah.
Dope. Love talking to him. And even people that I've met, the entrepreneurs in the business, you know? So whether it be the artists or the entrepreneurs, I like that. But I even, like, on the Latin side, oh, God, there's so many.
We've had so many conversations about the growing Latin music scene, from Latin drill to, yeah.
The Mexican, regional Mexican music, when you speak to the entrepreneurs in that side of the industry, forget it. It's like, it's a very special thing. It's a very special thing to watch a business, emerge and grow, and at the beginning stages. And when you know for a fact that the people who are behind it care and concern and going to work hard, like Russ, like Chance the rapper, what he did was very, very important. And everybody was like, holy shit. They couldn't even hate on him. They couldn't hate on him at all. That entire movement, none of those artists, right, are with me, but all of those artists I've learned from.
Got it.
Do you have plans for international footprint?
Yeah, I mean, we have, we're in Brazil. We have a great artist, Vey, in Brazil, who's crushing shit down there. Expanding into Chile, which is Nico G, Floyd Minor, leading shit down there. Into Nigeria, great artist, great talent, SARS, sort of leading that with him there. I'll be in India. Continue to expand in South America and Africa. Nothing's going to stop.
Well, it seems like it's taken a while, I don't know, for the United States hip-hop, but to accept music overseas. We, as XXL, our audience doesn't respond to it like that. And then you're starting to see maybe a little bit more here and there with other artists. But have you seen that be just exclusive to hip-hop? Do you think it's harder to get the U.S. to respond to international music and they're going to have to? Or is, because things are changing? Or do you think that maybe hip-hop's slow on that?
I see the borders crossing. I can't speak with any level of expertise on the XXL audience, but it just feels like I know the XXL audience like WizKid and Burna Boy and Thames. Like, how could you not? I know they're messing with Central C. Like, how could they not? So for me, I just don't know, kind of what specifically they're slow to adapt to. But when the music takes off, to me, and the artists that they looking up to or like are endorsing these artists. They want to be a part of what they're doing. I want to go back to something else we talked about when I was talking about artists and the new thing about what's getting me excited. And this, when you seen like Mariah Carey and Old Dirty Bastard, and it was like, oh my God, it's just rap and this big pop star and all that. That was huge. That was a very important thing for rap because she obviously lent her audience in pop radio to this new thing. And, she didn't have to do that. And she did it, and it was fire, and it's one of the great songs. Now you're seeing this thing happen with country music and hip-hop, and this BigXthaPlug is going to hit that, and it's going to go. It's going to go. This Shabuzi record, obviously, is gone. But, like, what's going to take place in Nashville right now, you're going to see a new genre of music emerge from it. You're putting those musicians, talented musicians, with lyricists. You got, obviously, multiple different races working together, making music.
Right.
You're going to see some shit. And that's exciting.
It is, because there's such large genres of music to see them find a way to connect to each other, and such opposite kind of audiences that sometimes overlap. To see it all mixed together is kind of it's exciting to see how it unfolds and who brings it there. And we kind of been, we tiptoed along with different artists along the way, but we're seeing more of an organic, I think, connection now,
Agreed 100%.
You've been around the industry for a long time, and I say that with all the respect. What have been some of the moments that you thought, wow, I can't believe I was here for that, or I can't believe I was around for that, or I got to experience that? What are your personal starstruck moments?
Or a moment where you were there and you knew this is history. That's about to happen. I'm living and watching and a part of history right now.
The Source Awards that one year. That was a crazy thing. Being in that building that day was crazy.
Was that 92, 93?
What was that like?
Was it?
Hold on. Because everyone, you see immediately, everyone here
knows
behind
exactly,
the scenes, it caused an eruption. What was it like? The atmosphere, the mood. What was it like being in there at that moment? It was 1 second away, and the person who stopped it was Snoop. It was 1 second away from the match going off. Like, it was so thick, and when Snoop got on stage and said, "New York don't love thing," it was almost like he said, "Do y'all don't love the West Coast? Y'all don't like Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre?" It sounded like the next thing he was gonna say was, "Then fuck y'all." And had he said that, I mean, it was right there. Wow. Had he said that, and I'm sitting there with Nas. Nas is there with no shirt on. Let's say he walks into the award show with no shirt on. He just got out of jail. It was so crazy, man. I can imagine.
I mean, it's the feeling of how am I going to get out? The feeling of gunshots going off in a close proximity, like people shooting at each other in a basement party. And you just, that's what you felt like, that was about to happen. And that was there. Going into the vibe party the night Biggie passed, I threw a party that night. He was on his way to my house. That's something that you were like, ugh. I mean, I seen LL Cool J perform at block parties and shit like that. So,
wow,
you know, I've been doing it for a while. Going to see, you know, Choppa Ranks opened up for Bobby Brown.
Wow.
That was craziness. And to see Choppa Ranks perform on a little part of the stage. Bobby Brown had the big stage, and watch this guy just blow the doors off. It was just like, what the fuck is this? Watching MC Hammer perform live, to see that was, you didn't have to even give a fuck. You didn't have to respect it. You look at anybody, look at any interview of people who went to a Hammer show. They almost disconnect how they felt about his music, if you're talking about a pure rap band, to what they seen this guy do. Yeah. It was like watching Michael Jackson. It was like, that was what it was. You never seen anything like that before. And never seen anything like that since.
Because of how he performed, because of how massive.
The shit was so massive. It was so bad. It was the most massive expression. It was like 40 Chris Browns on stage. That's what it looked like.
Oh my God.
I'm watching it on YouTube later, right? Yeah.
All dressed. And it felt like 40 Chris Browns and a marching band. That's what it felt like that feeling of a black marching band with 40 Chris Browns dancing. That's what it looked like if you watch that show.
I will later.
Sheesh,
I will go
how
to
many
YouTube
people
and
on
watch
stage?
it later.
Yo, he rolled deep, man. He rolled deep. He was massive.
Wow.
Now you look at Snoop at the Source Awards, and then you fast forward to Snoop at the Olympics.
Yeah.
What do you think when you look at him? You know,
I wrote the Tanning of America. You know what I think? I knew that would happen. That's like what's supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful thing. And again, we talk about that, right? That's sort of the results of being big. Mm-hmm. You get so big, you become mainstream, right? So now he's so mainstream, he's at the Olympic fencing, right? I mean, that's Snoop Dogg. Is that lyrical?
Right. Somebody said the other day, "Where's the petition to make Snoop Dogg the official U.S. mascot?" I was like, "My gosh, interesting." It's interesting to see for me looking at hip hop and seeing clothing lines not want to have anything to do with rappers at some point, to the point where all they want to do is get on them right now. And people who just never wanted to have anything to do with it, and the hardship and the way things were like a boulder to push up the hill.
I was always working with Reebok, so when Nelly made the Air Force One song, that was a big song. And in fact, I signed Nelly to Reebok. The product never came out because Nike didn't pay Nelly anything. Nike was on it like that.
Right.
Nike back then wouldn't pay you shit. They would send you some free sneakers. You were lucky.
Wow.
Is that why we saw the Reebok G Unit and S. Carter?
Yeah, because you couldn't get any money with them. Or they would personalize sneakers, so you'd get Rockefeller Air Force Ones, or Terror Squad Air, that kind of thing. They wouldn't give you any money, so they respected the influence but didn't want to pay you for it.
Is that them saying, "You're lucky to be along with us if we give you that check mark"?
Well, they would say that they were a brand that was all about performance, and they didn't see that as performance. You could argue going on stage and performing as performance.
Yeah.
They never seen it like that. They were like a sports-only brand.
Interesting.
So when we worked with Reebok, we created a brand that was really about lifestyle. And we're Sport and Lifestyle Connect. And that seems normal today. But, in 2000, 2001, 23 years ago, that was not...
It was not every day.
It wasn't even an idea. Didn't exist.
Yeah. You mentioned translation.
Yeah.
How does translation fit into UnitedMasters? And is that a service that an artist can benefit from?
Translation has a very unique relationship with brands. Brands always came to us because they wanted to, how could you help connect us with cultural relevance?
Right.
How can you help connect us to the next generation of youth? That's when I was initially hired. And my whole thing was, I'm going to connect you with music. So I'm going to get Pusha T and Pharrell to work on I'm Loving It. I'm going to get, G Unit and Jay-Z to make sneakers. I'm going to get Chris Brown to do Double Mint Gum and make Forever. I was always doing that. So fast forward to the building of UnitedMasters and translation, it's like the services are right here. Brands come to us to get into that anyway. So rather than borrowing all the talent outside, why don't you usher in that talent from right here? So, there's a lot of opportunity between what we do at UnitedMasters and translation. Again, that's the reason why you sign up for Select. That's the reason why you sign up for Debut Plus. That's the reason why you choose UnitedMasters. We're the only distributor that has the brand relationships, and we have full services. So we can take on a Brent Fires and do that work around the world. Because we have a team of people, not, but many, many people. A big overhead that works with our partners, right? So we have a partner tier and 2 subscription tiers. What else are you looking for? Like, nobody else has that. And it's no disrespect to them. That's what we do for a living. We care about making great artists. We care about artists working with brands and artists finding ways to earn money beyond streaming. That's what we care about. That's a metric that we have on our board that we have to hit. We're putting artists in sync. We have sync deals with the NFL, sync deals with the NBA, sync deals with ESPN, where your music can be used and exposed to larger audiences. Nobody else has anything like that. And now with that comes a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of responsibility. It's not easy. And there's been a lot of ups and downs over the years with building this company because of trying to be able to be all of the things inclusive to what an artist really needs. And I will tell you right now, we are prepared for that. We have the people. We have the vision. I'm fully committed. And as long as I'm fully committed, we're going to be doing what we got to get done. And that's the end of it.
Is there an ultimate goal? Last question. Because I know we've had your time for a minute. Is there an ultimate goal for UnitedMasters that you haven't reached yet? Your gold medal, since we're in Olympics time right now. Anything that, you see you reaching at a certain point in the next couple of years, or would love to get to, a certain deal that hasn't happened that you would love to see, or are you just riding so cool right now?
Continuing to be the launching pad for the next generation of artists. Every time I keep putting these things out there, I mean, the World Cup soundtrack and songs came out on UnitedMasters. This Floor Manoy record's had a billion streams, got to only. And I'm saying that because you think, we want to get a song with 1 billion streams, or we want to do something on a global basis. Right. We launched in Africa, we launched in South America.
You're doing it.
The goal is to go as far as you can and use the time in which you care to maximize the opportunity you have in front of you. That's the goal. Go as far as you can.
Take advantage of the position you're in.
That's what it is. And as far as that is as far as you go. And that's it. It's not, that's the feeling. Like, I know we did everything we can to go as far as we can. That's the bar. The bar isn't a number. The bar isn't a thing. The bar is, did you go as far as you can? And if you did that, then you won.
Wow.
Anything else?
After that, no way.
Thank you so much for coming to talk to us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for checking out this episode of XXL Inside Track. See you next time.